Hey everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and today we got some crazy news, crazy rumors going around. They've been going around for, I don't know, about 3 days, 5 days, a week. I don't even know at this point. I was in the middle of a hurricane, so that's why I haven't posted in the last week, I guess. And in that time, pretty much actually the day of the Mandalorian Season 2 trailer, this crazy rumor started going around, and as you can see, it kind of went everywhere. Okay, we have, did Pedro Pascal leave Mandalorian? New evidence disproves the rumors. Star Wars The Mandalorian, did Pedro Pascal leave the show? Even kind of trash websites like Cosmic Book News, which, by the way, that's like a fucking trash website. Pedro Pascal out as The Mandalorian, voice acting only. And basically it goes on and on and on and on and on. Okay, so you've probably seen this news by now. Again, I'm like a week late in even talking about this on my channel. But where did this all come from? It actually came here. So this is the day of the Mandalorian Season 2 trailer release. This is Grace Randolph, and I'm sure many of you have opinions about Grace Randolph. This is what she reported at the end of her trailer reaction. Conveniently, she decided to report this news the very same day when the algorithm for The Mandalorian, Baby Yoda, Pedro Pascal, all those names in the algorithm would be at their highest. She conveniently reported this breaking news that she has, which of course you see obviously works because all these websites started reporting on it. So anyways, so we're gonna listen to this. I'm gonna be pausing as it goes, and we're gonna just hear what they have to say. Okay, actually, one second here, let me boop, make sure that's okay. I had to change the audio. Okay, here we go.
The tea as promised. I haven't been able to confirm, though, whether or not this was resolved for season 3. I hope that it will be, though, because I really like Pedro Pascal on this show. And also, now that you know this, you'll understand why The Mandalorian Season 2 will have a good chunk of it that does not feature The Mandalorian, or at least not Din Djarin, because the title doesn't specify which Mandalorian, a loophole they weren't expecting to maybe need. And by the way, that's already been confirmed in the recent Entertainment Weekly interview by Jon Favreau himself, that Season 2 will focus heavily on other characters and storylines that don't involve Pedro Pascal.
Okay, we're gonna pause there because that is the first thing. Entertainment Weekly did indeed confirm that. Okay, in fact, I made a video about that. We've heard for, it feels like almost a year now, all these rumors of Ahsoka and Rex and Sabine and Boba Fett, all these cameo characters showing up. And the idea is essentially that these will be acting as backdoor pilots to their own shows. That is the rumor. That is supposedly what's gonna be happening. Okay, so Entertainment Weekly coming out and Jon Favreau saying, yeah, we're gonna be focusing on a lot of brand new characters that we're introducing. We're expanding the universe. The show's gonna get bigger. There's gonna be, he didn't say this, but there's gonna be a bunch of spin-offs. That's a known fact. We know that already. And what you're about to see here as we continue, Grace Randolph is gonna use that to support her new rumor claim. As she said, she's gonna say, oh, this is why it's really happening. It gets pretty ludicrous. Let's keep watching.
Why is that? Well, that's because while filming Season 2, Pedro Pascal really wanted to have some scenes with his helmet off, which I totally understand, from an actor's perspective. Also because there are other Mandalorian characters, or at least ones wearing Mandalorian armor, that get to have scenes without helmets. So it does seem a little unfair. Like he can't have one scene in private with the child? But no, the Mandalorian creative team wouldn't budge on this.
Okay, we're gonna pause there again. Because here's one important thing that you guys gotta know is that every fake rumor, or lie as I like to call them, every good one at least, starts with a seed of truth. It starts with a small kernel of believability because something is true in the center of it, and the rest of it is smoke and mirrors. You understand? So if someone comes up to you and say, hey, the main actor, the main character of the biggest TV show at that time in the world wants his face shown because his character wears a mask all the time. He wants his face shown. That way, his face is on screen, his face is on promotional material and posters and billboards and all this stuff, because that will then make him a bigger actor. He wants his face shown more. Logically, that makes perfect sense. Everyone will be like, yeah, of course he does. Why would you not? What sane person would say, no, I don't care if my face is shown in the biggest goddamn show in the world? It's like, of course he would. Like, anyone would. And that is what I call the kernel of truth. That is that's the believable center of everything you're about to hear. So let's keep going, but just remember what I said here about the seed of truth surrounded by smoke and mirrors, because that's how a good fake report or lie is constructed. So here we go.
So Pedro Pascal, from what I've heard from 2 sources now, was frustrated about this and also was pretty darn uncomfortable in the Mando suit on set.
Okay, pause one more time. It is very well documented, and everybody knows this already. Pedro Pascal only wore the Mandalorian armor for a very limited amount of time. In fact, probably only for that one episode where he took the mask off. So if a major complaint of his was being uncomfortable in the armor, that seems very strange because it would have only been for that one episode, because we know that several other stuntmen wore the armor for the rest of the show. So it's a very strange complaint that he supposedly had. Anyways, continue.
So he became difficult. And the final straw, though, even though he was, difficult to be around on set, the final straw was that he went to Lucasfilm, from what I heard from my sources, to try and get them to intervene on his behalf. And you combine that with Lucasfilm already trying to get involved with story aspects of season 2, which I've also heard, including focusing more on standalone episodes rather than making them more connected, which is what I hear the Mandalorian creative team wanted to do, which was kind of what was happening at the end of season 1. So when Pedro Pascal went to the Lucasfilm, the Mando team was like, you know what? You should just go.
Okay. And this is the other thing about it, is that she says that Pedro went to Lucasfilm. Now, that can mean a lot of things, but what I think she's implying here is that he went to Kathleen Kennedy herself, or someone at that level at least. Because, obviously, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are working for Lucasfilm as well on this show. So him going to Lucasfilm in general could mean anything. Now, the other thing is that if Pedro Pascal went to Kathleen Kennedy herself and the Mandalorian team still said, why don't you take a walk, Pedro Pascal? Does that seem realistic to you? Does that actually sound... Kathleen Kennedy could fire everyone in that room. Okay, and all these insane rumors about like, oh, Kathleen Kennedy's not involved in the show. Kathleen Kennedy's not allowed to do this or that. That is the stupidest goddamn thing I've ever heard. Kathleen Kennedy can literally fire anyone in that room. Okay? So this whole idea that he went to Kathleen Kennedy is ridiculous. And it's even more ridiculous to insinuate that Kathleen Kennedy could then not do anything for him or wouldn't even talk to anyone. It's like, no. I'm sorry. Anyways, let's keep going.
And Pedro Pascal did. So that happened about halfway through filming. So either The Mandalorian Season 2 will switch halfway through, or I've been thinking about it, I think there's a chance, and this is probably what I would do, is that they'll sprinkle the Mandalorian stuff with Pedro Pascal that they did shoot throughout the season to make it feel more whole, and then they'll fill in the blanks with these other character stories.
Okay, so here's now what she's insinuating, that halfway through filming, this is what she's saying, halfway through filming, Pedro Pascal left. Halfway through the season, he left. And so now they have to use what little footage they have to sprinkle throughout the season. Again, the large majority of the time, stuntmen are in the suit, not Pedro Pascal. So him leaving the set would not affect their ability to film someone walking around in the Mandalorian armor. That makes no sense. So what she said, what she's saying right now, makes no goddamn sense based on the facts that we know. They can still film someone with Baby Yoda in the Mandalorian suit, walking around, doing stunts, doing actions. Pedro Pascal, for the large majority of Season 1, just did the voice. He wore the suit very little. So, anyways, listen to this next part.
We have wondered why Dave Filoni characters are being brought onto this show instead of having their own show. Maybe that was always the plan, or maybe because Pedro Pascal and the creative team had this falling out halfway through filming, they needed new exciting characters that would make up for the loss of a fan favorite.
Okay, do you realize what the fuck she just said? Do you realize how fucking dumb that is? I'm sorry, Grace Randolph, not to be mean, but what you just said is really fucking dumb. She is saying that Pedro Pascal left halfway through the season, halfway through production, and that is why they decided then to bring in all of these fan favorite characters. Only then did they decide to hire all these actors, and they had to rework the rest of season 2 around the fact that Pedro left, which is fucking bonkers. Okay, halfway through shooting the season, there's this huge crazy shift, and they had to rewrite the whole season because one actor wanted to take his mask off more, and they were unwilling to budge, and Kathleen Kennedy couldn't do anything about it. Do you realize how many things about this don't make sense? It's I'm sorry, but it's fucking stupid. It makes no goddamn sense. Okay, first of all, it's very unlikely that he went to Kathleen Kennedy. And second of all, if he did go to Kathleen Kennedy, she could do literally anything. And it definitely would not get to the point where he's leaving the set, not coming back, and then they have to panic, hire all these actors to come in and play these characters, and completely rework the entire season because the guy who, again, he almost never wears the suit anyways, is not there to wear the suit. Do you realize what I'm saying? They could literally get any stunt guy to come in there and do the suit. They could get an impersonator to come in there and do the voice if it came down to it. So the implication that they had to bring in all these characters just because he left set. Okay, let's continue with this nonsense because I'm losing my mind. Let's go.
It's like, hey, you might not have as much of Pedro Pascal, but look at all this cool new stuff you're getting. Which I also think I understand where everybody's coming from on this. Now, as I said, I've heard the breakup was pretty bad with both sides pretty darn upset. But hopefully, cooler heads can prevail. Maybe, again, they already have. So that Pedro Pascal's Mandalorian can return for season 3 with his helmet off for 1 or 2 scenes.
Okay. And this is what we call giving yourself an out. It's basically when you make up this really complicated lie, but you leave something at the end of it. So that way, if you get caught, there's always an out. What I mean by this is, what she's saying here is that it's possible that Pedro Pascal, that they already settled all this, and that he'll be back for season 3. That's because, as we can tell by now, he will be back for season 3. And so that way, when it does happen, people can't say that Grace Randolph was lying or Grace Randolph was wrong. In fact, they'll have to say that she was right. Because like, oh, look, she was right. They did patch it all back up. It's like, it's because there was nothing to fucking patch up. And none of this stuff happened. Did he at one point want his helmet off more so he can show his face? Yeah, I'm sure that was a discussion. Because that's the kernel of truth. That's the little seed of truth at the center. The rest of this is crazy nonsense. The idea that because the guy who almost never wears the suit was not there halfway through filming, left. And then they had to write in all these other characters. And it has nothing to do with all the backdoor pilot shows that they're getting. I'm sure that it... Oh my god. Anyways. So let's keep going. I don't remember if she has some more after this. Let's see.
I mean, how do you feel about it? Is the helmet staying on 100% of the time? Come on, these are creative people. They came up with a reason for him to take it off in season 1. Do you really feel it should be that much of a line in the sand? I think that there should be some compromise that can be reached because I just think Pedro Pascal is fantastic in this role. And also to him, I would say, don't underestimate the importance of your voiceover. I think that, even when we don't see Pedro Pascal, I think we definitely feel him.
Okay, one more thing, because I believe that's essentially the end of the story that she's weaving here. Think about this rumor and the way that she's constructed it. Okay, she's given herself an out so that way when season 3 happens and Pedro Pascal is still there, we can't say that she's wrong because she left the outing there that, oh, maybe they patched everything up, which we know they did because there's nothing to patch up. The other thing about it is that the only actual way to disprove this rumor, the only way to say that Grace Randolph was actually wrong is if consistently in season 2, the Mandalorian takes off his helmet and Pedro Pascal's face is there, and they have to do that several times throughout the season, and that's the only way we can look at Grace Randolph and say, ha, you were wrong. Because that's the way that she's constructed this lie. That's the way that she's made up this rumor, is that he has to take the helmet off consistently. And that's the only way to prove that he's there and didn't walk off set. That's the only way to prove that. Which we know he's not going to do, because the entirety of season 1 was setting up the fact that he always keeps it on. Because again, 90% of the time it's stuntmen wearing the suit anyways. That's the whole point of season 1, was like, he's the Mandalorian thing. He keeps it on. He had like whole dialogues about him always wearing it. So that being the only way to disprove this rumor essentially guarantees that throughout this season, when they're focusing on different characters that are not the Mandalorian, because they're trying to set up those characters to have their own TV show spin-offs, people are going to say Grace Randolph was right. She was right. It's like, no. Grace Randolph, and a lot of us, by the way, already knew the truth. And Grace Randolph simply took the truth and started writing this crazy story around it, so that way it seems to fit perfectly. But if you sit and think about it, there's so many holes in here that don't make any goddamn sense. Okay, so no, he's not going to take the helmet off, and we're not going to see Pedro Pascal a whole bunch, because they already set up that he wears the helmet all the time. And that was the only way to disprove her rumor. Oh my god. And of course he's going to be back for season 3, and then Grace Randolph's going to say, oh, they must have worked everything out. It's like, yeah, fuck off. I'm sorry. I'm sure you're a nice person, but fuck off. Come on. What are you doing? What are you doing? Anyways, one last thing I want you guys to listen to. So this is Kessel Run Transmissions. This is Corey and Noah. I really like these guys. I like what they do here. So let's listen to what they have to say about all of this.
The whole point of season 1 was really established that his helmet is on for a reason.
Yeah.
Right. So they kind of established that already. And so I feel like Pedro reading that script, would he really fight for it? Like, be like, no, you guys should change the story decisions because I'm asking you to, even though he knew going in what the role was.
Yeah, and that's another good point, is that he it's not as if he came on this show and was super shocked, like, wait, I'm not going to be in the armor the whole time? Wait, he's going to wear the mask like the whole show? It's not like that was a surprise. He went into this show knowing that he's mainly doing voice work and he'll wear the armor for like one episode. That was not some great shock for him. Anyways.
So, yeah, I mean, from what we heard about a year ago, the only thing we knew about the situation was simply that there was negotiations to have him to have his face featured more. But I don't necessarily know if he demanded that or if he asked that, but I just know that was in negotiations and it worked out. So,
well, that's what I was going to add is we've heard that it's seemingly kind of worked itself out.
Yeah.
It's not like a thing right now where like, oh, season 3 there's not going to be any more Pedro. Like from what we've heard, like Pedro is on board.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is that basically they've heard from their people that, yeah, there was a discussion at one point. He wanted his face shown more because, again, that's the kernel of truth that actually makes sense. It's the only thing about this story that actually makes sense. Is that the main star wants his face shown more. It's like, oh, of course he does. It's the biggest show in the world, and he's the main star. Who would not want their face shown more? But again, kernel of truth that sets up. It's like the groundwork for the sticks and pieces of clay that are holding together the rest of the big lie. Anyway, just keep going.
Oh,
like,
dude.
nobody.
They're
not worried about the future of the show because Pedro's not involved. He's there. He's involved.
Yeah.
He's posted on Instagram. It wasn't even like because he posted like he retweeted the trailer, which was like a thing like in his contract he'd probably have to do that. But like yesterday, he like wished Ludwig Göransson like a happy birthday, and it was him and like it wasn't actually the Mando helmet; it was a Boba Fett helmet. In the scoring session, and before y'all asked, no, it wasn't him. Like it wasn't like Boba Fett's helmet that they use in the show. It was like some like fan created one that made its way there. Or
Dude,
something.
that blew my mind yesterday when I saw that. I was like, oh, is this Cod Vanth? And they're like, it's actually fan made. I was like,
yeah,
what?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
on official merchandise? Okay.
Yeah, but he posted pictures and and he was in the scoring session with Favreau, and it might have been from season 1 because some people were saying that looks like it's from the season 1 scoring session. It's possible, but there's no way that if Pedro was having these huge issues with the production and Favreau and Lucasfilm, that he'd be on Instagram like hyping up the show, like when he doesn't even have to. It was like a happy birthday post, and he was like having fun. He had a helmet. He had like a Boba Fett helmet on, and he was like scoring and stuff. Like it seemed like he was very happy to be involved, and so that's what I want to tell people. There might be some truth to this. There might be some there is truth to this.
Yeah,
but it's not that. It's not drastic. It's not anything to worry about.
Every single time Pedro Pascal talks about the Mandalorian, it's with this hype. He's got this hype around it every single time. I've never seen an interview where he seems like he hates what he's doing.
No.
And if something bad goes down and there's bad blood between like him and Favreau or Filoni, that's going to end up being picked up in some way.
Yeah, and that right there, by the way, what they were just talking about, especially in the age of John Boyega coming out there and just speaking his mind. And that's the other thing. John Boyega's out there speaking his mind because like the contracts are over and he's allowed to just talk freely, right? About the sequel trilogy and stuff like that. If Pedro Pascal left set and he's no longer working there, he's no longer employed, why would he still be playing the game? Why would he still be like, oh, everything's fine and happy, I'm just posting these pictures? No, if he's like pissed off, he's not posting pictures. He's not congratulating this and that. He's not being part of the team. He's like, if he was pissed off about something, he'd be pissed off about something.
Whether it's his interactions on Twitter or whether it's him in an interview or the way he's expressing himself, you'll always see a little like, whoa, even if you try to hide it, you'll see something. And I've never gotten the vibe from any of the cast members really that they've ever had issues with the creative. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying like Grace Randolph's lying. I'm just saying that I think sometimes what happens is we can have the best of sources and things do get like crossed the different way, and they might
wires get crossed.
Wires get crossed, and so I don't know. I just personally like. I don't even know if I'd run something like that just because it feels like personal to the cast and like all of that.
That's my thing. We don't anything we've ever like reported on like we don't even.
Okay, so basically there you have it. That's pretty much all they had to say about it. But just to reiterate, they have heard that there was a thing about Pedro wanting to have his mask off more often, which again, that's to see the truth. That's the one thing, the only thing about this whole thing that makes any sense at all. Okay, and look, final word about Grace Randolph herself. Look, I know that she has sources. I know that she has gotten plenty of things right in the past, but from what I've seen, she's also gotten plenty of things wrong. All scoopers do get things wrong from time to time, but aside from that, she also seems to be more of a tabloid type reporter. She'll take these elements of truth, but then she will greatly exaggerate them. She'll spice them up and dress them up for thumbnails and in headlines, whatever's gonna grab the headline, because I feel like she was kind of trained to do that, and that's really what she does. So there probably was this real thing, like Kessel Run Transmission was saying, this real event where Pedro kind of wanted his helmet off more, and they had to have that whole conversation about that. But then this whole thing where he ran off set and this all this drama and all this infighting and all this craziness, and at the end of the day, it's going to turn out to be nothing. Like nothing happened. He's still going to be there for season 3, and the only reason they're going to take focus off of him for parts of season 2 is because they're introducing new characters for their own backdoor pilots for shows. Like we know that already. So this whole idea that like, oh, they only introduced them because Pedro ran off set, again, when he doesn't even wear the suit that often, it's ridiculous. And it's transparent to me. To me, it's obvious that there's a lot of exaggeration and spiciness being thrown on what is honestly relatively little of an actual story, in order to get clicks, in order to do this to the internet. That's really what kind of gets to me, is that, like, you know, if Grace Randolph wants to spice up her reports for her audience and stuff like that, okay, that's fine, right? Like, she can do that, I guess. Anyone can do that. People do it all the time. But then it turns into this, where it's like this crazy thing where it's like, oh, he's leaving. All these websites are reporting on it, and it's annoying. It's just really annoying. And I think that's my main gripe with Grace Randolph, is that, like, she might not be necessarily lying, like, from the get-go. You know, there's always like this seed of truth, but she just piles on all this, like, exaggeration and all this craziness to make it so much, you know, the news is now sexier, it's easier to sell, it's easier to make a headline about, because I made it sound a lot more dramatic and horrible than it actually is. And that's what she does, and that's what I really don't like. You know, that's where I'm really like, okay, so you don't care about telling your audience the truth, you just care about selling them a story. That's what you're doing, you know. And that is something that you kind of learn going to, you know, journalism, and not journalism, but, you know, working at, like, websites and papers and shit like that. Like, that's the kind of thing you learn from there. So yeah, anyways, that's my whole stance on this whole traumatic story, that it just won't shut up from the internet. And of course, even today I saw, what was it, Doomcock? Even he made a video about this, where he's like, well, I've heard from my sources, he even talked to George Lucas or something. And I'm like, oh my god, of course. And that's the thing, if you see Doomcock has taken up a story, or Cosmic Book News has taken up a story, that should be a clear sign that large portions of this story are either completely fabricated or exaggerated beyond belief, because it's easier to sell a story that way to your audience than when the truth is, he probably wanted his helmet off, they talked about it, it might happen, it might not happen, and that's it. That's all that happened. Nothing else happened. There was no storming off set, there was no discussions with George Lucas or Kathleen Kennedy. Everything's fine. But the Mandalorian trailer came out, and the algorithm for anything labeled Mandalorian, hashtag Baby Yoda, all that's going through the roof. So if you can come up with a really sexy story to sell people and put that in your headlines and in your thumbnails, oh, you're going to get all the clicks. And that's really what it comes down to. It's getting the clicks, it's getting the views. It just comes down to money, really. That's all it really is. Anyways, so let me know what you guys think. I know I got pretty heated there. Grace Randolph, I didn't mean to say fuck off or whatever, but you know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. Other people are falling for it, and it's annoying at most. Or no, it's annoying at least, and it's kind of shitty at most. Anyways, I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye.